Okay, so here's a look at a schedule for the week. Notice the days change a bit because of the Good Friday and Easter Monday. So Tuesday actually becomes day 3 and everything goes down from that. And you can see that Wednesday is our trip in the afternoon. So that also changes things a bit too. Okay, so for this week on Tuesday, I've got a kind of couple. I've kind of got a couple of things. First of all, we're looking at our collaborative art project and putting in some maybe descriptive labels, kind of label the pictures that are there and what our plans are. Looking at a list of supplies, specific jobs to do. And we can look at that in terms of the art project, but also kind of bring it back to the library because some students got excited about Easter coming up. So they decided they wanted to do some Easter writing on Thursday instead of the library job writing. So we can kind of pull both in. Wednesday, we're not going to be doing our writers workshop because of the trip, and our math art activity is going to be moved down, I think, a little bit. So then on Thursday, on the trip, we're going to be getting a vermicomposter. So on Thursday, we're going to look at learning a little bit more about worms and what do we see, think, and wonder, gathering some information from some different texts and sharing some of their ideas. Also going to look at PebbleGo on the virtual library because there's also some information on there with regards to worms, so students can also look at that and have a look. And then on Friday, looking at asking questions. So we've done a bit in terms of asking the questions, but haven't brought it back as much to the Q chart as I would like. And since we've been looking at a lot of at resources and using them, I think this would be good. And then not just asking them, but seeing can students think their way to answer some of those questions already, or look at ways to how can they learn more together. We can even connect it to our idea of the waste-free lunch and looking at the composting option to reduce even more waste. How much does it reduce? So students can see the impact of the composting as well. So all that fruit or vegetables or whatever, if it went into the garbage, what would that mean versus if we add some of it to the vermicomposter? So, and maybe even finding out a bit more about a vermicomposter, which is something I should probably do too. So on Tuesday, it's going to be our Talking Tuesdays, and we're going to look at some photographs of parks and other outdoor areas, look at some different shapes and figures and things like that, so that can kind of help us as we go about creating our setting, and also looking at measurement. So finding the areas that we're going to use for these parts of our mural, and how are we going to divide up the responsibilities and who's going to be working on what part and what are their ideas for each part, and kind of coming up with areas in the room to work so that we can not only plan it but make it work together too, and create it on both Wednesday and Thursday. So I'm thinking that the creation process is probably going to be a couple of days. Excuse me, looking at, we need to create the setting for the bid and get started on Wednesday. Because of the trip, it's going to be very short, so it'll probably just be a little bit to get started just before the break, but then we're going to have to clean up again about 10, so they're probably only going to get about an hour of actually doing it and then going back and re-looking at what they have to do, looking specifically at their use of space and measurements. And then on Thursday, kind of reflecting on what we created and comparing it to some other murals that are out there of parks and other areas. And I found some good images of them. So what can we add or change? Looking specifically at the elements of design too, and then going back to make some of the changes, reflect, and look at the math concepts that we added as well. So that can kind of go as part of the reflection and getting students to share what was changed and why, and kind of adding that into their reflection. And then on Friday, there's kind of the two parts. So in one regard, we're going to be performing the bidge, but before we perform it, the students had spoken about making some costumes. So what kind of different costumes could we have to make? And then working in measurement, shapes, and figures to help with this. So always a good way to kind of see the specific measurements, I guess. And coming up with like design plans and labels, Also pulling in some texts for reading that can help us. I know I've pulled a few guided reading texts before that actually show how to create different things, so I could pull those out as well, and the students can use the text to not just read but come up with plans and things like that, so we can kind of have a combination of both. Okay, and then we're going to be looking here at our shared reading for the week. So it'll kind of involve two parts, one in terms of practicing the play, and now that we have specific lines, we'll have a little more to practice, as well as the song, which will be our musical component too, and then performing it. And we can also make an invitation for the class to come. We might even want to write a kind of an introduction that could be kind of like a second shared reading for this week. And on Tuesday, prior to the trip, we also need to look at coming up with some waste-free snacks. So what could we bring? And coming up with some kind of waste-free snack to bring as well for the trip, so that we can have our snack when on the trip.